Hi, everyone. I'm Kelsey McGuire, CGO over here at Shardeum, and I'm really excited to have Chris with us today. Chris, could you give a quick intro?
Hi there. So I'm Chris. I'm the head of open social here at Shardeum. So I'm focusing a lot on the developer community and making sure that they can contribute to the Shardeum project. So I've been a member of the developer community in open source for about 30 years now. So
Wow.
I'm bringing that experience to Shardeum.
Yeah, we're so excited that you've joined us. And, to the community that's listening, this is a new video format series where we're taking three kind of rapid fire questions sourced from the community and just providing a little extra clarity and making sure that you guys get your questions answered. So we're going to jump right into those. Our first one is, why has the timeline for Mainnet shifted? What do you
Oh
think,
man, I
Chris?
bet that is the question on everyone's mind.
Yes.
So I imagine that people are frustrated, and I totally get that because it has happened a few times that the timelines have shifted, right? And we definitely feel that urgency. At the same time, we also feel the responsibility for delivering on our promises and the goals that we set ourselves out. And the tricky thing is that when you build something that is completely new and works in a very new way, there are always the unknown unknowns to deal with. And one of those examples, for instance, is because we built this cool system that shards information over multiple parties that collectively drive the ecosystem and the platform. There's a number of situations that we did not expect. One example of those is that whenever a tool like MetaMask or your favorite Web3 website or dApp wants to know your account balance because it displays it in your website or in your MetaMask, then would have to ask all of these different shards for, hey, what is the balance for this account? And the thing that we discovered when we launched the network with 20,000 people participating and all of them running MetaMask in their browser and using it through their websites, that that would lead to so many requests for things like account balance, gas fees, and all those kind of things that those validators and shards would be pretty busy just answering those simple questions. Now, that meant that we have to go back to the drawing board and we had to think about like, do we raise the requirements for what kind of server you need to have and how fast it needs to be able to participate? But I felt like the wrong answer because that means you have to spend more money. And one of the big driving perspectives, principles that we have at Shardium is that we want to make sure that everything is open, that everyone can participate. That's true in the low transaction fees, but it's also true in running validators. We want to make that easy, simple, and accessible so that everyone can participate in there. So requiring people to have big, hefty servers was not the answer. So they went back and they went, well, hey, we do have the receipts for every transaction on an archive server. And that is a much beefier machine, much larger, and many more of them than what a validator has. If we just store the outcomes of those transaction receipts and use that to answer these questions about what is the gas fee or what is the balance on this account, then the validators don't have to do that anymore. So we don't have to change those specifications for those servers. Now, those kind of lessons you kind of have to learn in practice because when you're building the system, you've got your developer machines, everything's running on AWS at a certain specification, and the world is relatively perfect. But when you put it out there on the beta net, then you start learning that in practice there are exceptions to those assumptions that you had. So we've gone through a few of these types of learnings where we went, what we thought would work in theory works slightly different in practice. And because we want to reach all of those goals around participation, accessibility, performance, cost of transactions, that took a little while to figure out. So those are the steps we're currently going through. We also have had four highly respected security auditing teams going through the whole project and all the source code to go through it with a fine tooth comb to tease out every possible issue that could come up. Because obviously, once this goes live, there's real money involved. So it matters. It has to be incredibly secure and robust. And a few things came up out of that as well that we're fixing. Nothing that concerns us, but it is one of those things where when you're building a project and something that's been done before, you can confidently say it will take X months. When you're doing something truly innovative that has a completely new approach, you have to spend some time learning.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Chris. It sounds like building a completely new thing comes with completely new challenges that you just can't
Exactly.
anticipate. We're not copy pasting stuff from other projects. We're innovating over here. So really appreciate you giving a little more color to the community around that.
And the upside is that the end result is truly spectacular. And that's why we're all here, right? We're building something that fundamentally can change the rules of the game. It takes a
Exactly.
bit of time to figure out, but we're getting there, which is so good.
Yeah, helps us push through the weekends and long evenings when
Exactly.
addressing some of the challenges.
Yeah.
I think our next question is a little more specific. So, well, this community member is asking about their node status. They say that their node status is stuck on waiting for network. What should
Oh,
they do about that?
that is an interesting one. There's a few things that could happen. The easiest one could be if you're running a node on the wrong version. We have been upgrading our versions a lot recently. Every time that we learn and build new things, we've upgraded the required versions for the network as well. Another thing that could happen is that you have firewall rules. So I have to get a little bit technical here, so I apologize for that. But when you're running a validator, that is a server on the internet that other things have to connect to, that happens over a network, and networks have firewalls. Literally, you can imagine that that's a wall that keeps things out. And the reason why you want those, and they often come standard on like cloud providers, or if you're running something at home, then your ISP or your internet provider will also have firewall rules that say anything that comes in is blocked unless you specifically open the door to it. And those are allowed ports in technical speak. And what could happen is that you're running your validator absolutely correctly, but that firewall is in the way. So when Shardeum network tries to connect to it, it can't. So it tries to join the network. It sends out a request that says, "Hey, I'm here," but the response can never come back in. So what I would look at is if you're using your own internet provider because you've got a machine at home, contact them or look at their website and look at their firewall configuration on the router you're using at home. And with a bit of luck, it depends on how liberal these providers are. But with a lot of providers, you can say, if something comes in on this port connected to this machine, which is where your validator is running. Once that is up and running, then that waiting for network should be gone.
Great. Thanks, Chris. We hope that that helps you out to the community member that asked that. And we'll be sharing the channels that you can reach out to us with any additional questions. And of course, how we're sourcing these questions. And our last question of the day is, when is incentivized testnet? We're all super
Oh,
excited
man.
about that. And how long
Uh-huh.
will it go for?
So incentivized testnet is top of the list. That's all we're talking about and all we're dreaming about when we try to get some sleep.
Every day.
It is. We're so excited about it, and everyone is working so hard that you even see people working on the weekends, trying things out. We're marching towards it as quickly as we can, and the list of issues we want to fix before we launch it is getting very short, which is exciting.
That's what
So
we
we're
want to
now
hear.
on an internal release candidate 5, which means that we have 5 steps before where we went. We think we got it. Let's do a really big test, which is this long list of activities that we do on the network. We spin up hundreds of nodes on AWS ourselves. And then we ask our test team and everyone in the company to kick the tires and see if the axles break. And there's been a few small things that came up that we want to get perfect, because I imagine that once incentivized testnet opens, there's going to be a lot of people participating because it is the final step before mainnet, but you can also earn tokens by participating. So instead of just doing a beta test, there's now real money to be made, and there are real stakes involved. So we want to get it perfect. We want to make sure that every issue that we found going through these release candidates have been resolved. and we're getting close. I can't commit because you know how the unknowns or knowns are. There's always, as you would put it, the potential for Godzilla to rise out of the sea and roar at you, right? And I love that visual.
Never
I absolutely adore it. And that is how unknown unknowns often go. But we think that we killed all of them and all the Godzillas have been put back in the ocean.
where they
Well, we're
belong.
doing a whole bunch of testing. Once that has been completed, that's where we flip the switch and we announce it to the community. So soon is
Great.
the best I can say, but it's definitely measured in weeks and not in months or years. So that is exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Thanks, Chris, for giving a
So
little bit
the
more.
other part of your question, I got a bit carried away there now, is how long
Okay.
does it take? And again, it is one of those, it depends. And if you ever spoke to a software engineer, you know that is our favorite phrase. And the reason for that is that the plan that we have spreads, I think, 8 weeks, right? And we've got multiple steps where we got great campaigns with partners, different aspects that you can try out, different dApps, different interactions. And again, there is that incentivize mechanic where you can actually earn rewards for doing those things. But the goal, of course, is that by having so many people trying out stuff, there will be situations where people do things that we never thought of testing ourselves. And that's the wonderful thing about human beings. If you get 1,000 of them, 900 will do exactly the thing you expect. 100 of them, you go, how did you do that? And that is the whole goal of the testnet, right? To make sure that we encounter every possible scenario. And if there are issues that come up out of it, then we fix it. So it should be 8 weeks. If that Godzilla monster pops up in a severe way, then it might turn into 9 or 10. We'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Well, that will hopefully give much more color and clarity to the community around this. And, Chris, are there any other updates or tidbits you'd like to share before we wrap things up today?
As I mentioned, we understand the urgency in the community. We're working incredibly hard on that. But I am very excited about the steps that are coming. There's so many things coming together. Like Kelsey, I know that your team has prepared a lot of great content. Our partnerships team have been working with so many different parties. Me and my team have been working on open sourcing all of our software behind it so we can get developer communities involved. There are so many of these different projects that are all waiting for that go ahead signal. I can't wait to share all of that with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. And we're really excited. And thanks to everyone who tuned in.